Temp check. What kind of summer are we having this year? A family road trip summer? A beach bum summer? Or a wake me up when the sun sets summer? With Instacart, choose your own adventure and skip the shopping side quests. Where available, you can get ice cream delivered to your hotel, sunscreen to the pool, or cold brew to your bed. Well, door, in as fast as 30 minutes. Wherever you find yourself this summer, you can get the goods. Download Instacart for free delivery on your first 3 orders. Offer valid for a limited time. Minimum $10 per order. Excludes restaurants. Additional terms and fees apply.
When you want to have fun and have scratchers to scratch, there's a playful way you can do just that. Scratch with the key or acrylic nail. Scratch with the quill from a porcupine tail. Use a belt buckle from your friend Lamar. Or scratch with your pick while you play guitar. You can scratch in a bunch of different playful ways. Scratchers from the California Lottery. A little play can make your day. Please play responsibly. Must be 18 years or older to purchase, play, or claim.
It's easy to get lost in the latest true crime podcast or your favorite binge-worthy show. But what about your own story? That's the most important story of all, and therapy helps you write it. BetterHelp Therapy is 100% online and designed to be convenient and flexible enough to squeeze in between the next episode on your list. Get started today at betterhelp.com/pause for 10% off your first month.
Well. Shopping for a car?
Yep. Carvana made financing a car as smooth as can be.
Oh, yeah?
I got pre-qualified instantly and had real terms personalized just for me.
Doesn't get much smoother than that.
Well, I got to browse thousands of car options on Carvana, all within my budget.
Doesn't get much smoother than that.
It does. I actually wanted a car that seemed out of my range, but I was able to add a cosigner and found my dream car.
It doesn't get much...
Oh, it gets smoother. It's getting delivered tomorrow.
Visit Carvana.com or download the app to get pre-qualified today.
And welcome back to Little Cuts, our weekly mini-sode where we dig into the things that we've been watching recently. I'm Terry.
And I'm Mary Beth, and I am drinking a coffee the size of my head at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so that should tell you all how it's going in this part of the world. But that aside...
I had 2 monsters today.
Oh my god, guys, we are doing very good. But tonight, we are talking... Well, this week, not tonight. You know what? I don't know what I'm even fucking talking about. But this week, we are talking about a 70s slasher that didn't exist and its documentary. An intense heist film. Sci-fi found footage. A shockingly interesting movie about running around a pond. And a Cronenberg adaptation.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff. Boy.
We watch too much content. Like, can I just say, I consume so much content. I was looking at my letterbox and I've already watched like over 100 movies this year. And I was like, that's repulsive. And I know that that's like probably rookie numbers for some people, but for me, that is repulsive. 16,000 for the year? That's not possible. You mean like just in general?
No,
total.
total.
Okay. I was like, Jesus Christ, 16,000?
Oh, you're beating... How many did you say this year? How many did you say?
Over 100.
I'm at 97 only. I am slacking, apparently.
But it always makes me laugh because all of my friends that aren't film people are like, I've watched 1 movie in 6 months. Mm-hmm. I was like, I watched 4 movies the other day. I watched 4.
Seriously.
Good Lord.
Oh, man.
Anyway.
Yeah.
116 this year.
Okay. Yeah, I need to
that's disgusting.
Step my pussy up, apparently.
Step your pussy up. Anyway, speaking of pussies, I need to go to jail.
With this?
I need to go to jail. I think someone needs to put me in prison. 70 slasher that didn't exist. I don't know. That's not necessarily a connection, but we got there by sheer force of will.
Sometimes that's all we have.
I'm not well.
Okay, so this is a Panic Fest movie. 2 movies. They don't have anything to do with pussies.
Yeah,
But,
well, I tried.
you know, we can...
Did I? I didn't at all.
So,
Anyway.
okay, there's been like a trend in festival features. Like, this is the second time I've seen this in like the last year where someone has made a movie that did not exist and it's basically like a pastiche of a time period movie. And the last time we saw it was, boy, I can't remember what the title is. The last Saturday.
The third Saturday in October.
The third Saturday in October, parts 1, I think, and 5. I think we're that one.
Yeah.
And so this movie, it's called... So the first movie is called End Zone 2. The people that created it are cheeky enough that they actually have created an IMDb page for this fictitious movie. Well, it now exists as a movie, but a fictitious movie in 1970s. So there's an IMDb page for this movie as if it is from the 70s. And there is the first movie that I think it was in, 65 maybe? Yeah, 65. So there's IMDb pages with fake actors in it. And those actors are... So there's like an actor that's playing that actor that is playing the character role in these movies. It starts off like... what I do like about this beginning of this movie is that it kind of feels like... You know how we have so many boutique DVD companies now, Vinegar Syndrome, Severin, Cauldron Films, all these places that are doing restorations of movies that maybe 5 people have seen. It's presented as this like movie, End Zone 2, that maybe half a dozen people have seen, and it has like this opening text about how it was restored from film stock of both the American and the Italian version of the film because there's no complete thing. They make a big deal about how the last 30 minutes of the movie is missing. It was presumed destroyed and they don't have it. So they're kind of giving us some like recreation of this movie from the camera footage that they could find. And so it plays like that. It's just basically it's a standard slasher that's done in basically an hour as opposed to an hour and a half. So it's very heightened. And it's all about like being the second movie in a cycle. So like the final girl from the first movie is now living with trauma, and it's like 15 years later, and there's a party going on, and there's like weird things happening, and it's sort of like doing Jason before Jason, where the first killer in the first movie was the mom of Smash Mouth, this football player who ends up getting beaten by the football players, and so she kills the football team and blends them up in a smoothie and feeds it to Smash Mouth. Like that's the kind of stuff we're dealing with here. And it's decent. I kind of wish it leaned a little bit more into it being like a recreation or like a restoration of that film. Like they make a big deal about there being like Italian parts, and you can see sort of like differences in the film stock as we move between scenes. But, like, I was like, ooh, are they going to be, like, all of a sudden we're going to have, like, Italian dubs? You know what I mean? Like, I'm thinking, oh, God, Tony, now here's All-Star. I hate that song. I hate that song so fucking much. That's what I like to do.
All right.
Murder fun. No fun. I'm sure they do, Tony. I'm sure they do play it at work. Because, like, that is a song that I feel like you just can never escape. And I hate it. I hate it so much. God damn it, Shrek. Anyway, yeah.
How dare you? How dare you? How dare you? Take that back. Take that back right this instant. How dare you? First of all, how dare you?
I'm being attacked.
What are you doing in my swamp? Anywho, so
that's a nice rock. Boulder.
Yeah,
boulder.
Yeah, that's a nice boulder. Get it together.
I can't.
Hater.
Let me just take a sip of my haterade.
Good Lord. This is out of control.
And then, okay, so there's that. And it cuts off. It feels like a full movie, and it cuts off. And it turns out that in the last 30 minutes of this movie, the killer, or the person that played Smash, was replaced by a different actor. Mm-hmm. But all of the stuff that he was in has been destroyed. So there's another movie that is attached to this one. It's a double feature called The Once and Future Smash. And it takes place in today's time at a monster convention, and they are doing, as we know with horror movie fans, even though there may be like 6 of you out there for a movie, we're going to have like people show up for this very niche movie. And so they bring both people that played Smash Mouth, the one that played it in the movie that we have, and the one that got cut out. And so it follows sort of like this convention circuit of both smashes, one played by the Greasy Strangler guy, the guy that played the Greasy Strangler. I cannot think of what his name is. Michael St. Michaels.
The fucking phrase Greasy Strangler makes me want to pull off my face. It makes me want to remove the flesh from my face.
Makes you want to do like a poltergeist moment?
Yes, just like it just makes ew. Okay, sorry. God, just like I think it's just the words, all of it.
I don't even know where to go from there. But yeah.
Oh, I looked up pictures. Why did I do that? I knew.
That. But it has, so like the documentary has a lot of like in jokes. So Victor Miller is quite hilarious in this. Victor Miller, of course, is the writer, but he wrote Friday the 13th, which is what this movie kind of plays off of. No, he did not direct it. I'm a bad Friday the 13th fan, but he wrote it. So like it has him in it talking, like he's perched next to like awards and he is talking about this movie and how it was so influential. Adam Marcus, who did Freddy's Dead. Oh my God, Jason Goes to Hell. Then there's like Todd Farmer, who wrote Jason X. And so there's all these like genre people that like fans of these movies will recognize, and they're all talking about how important this movie is that no one has seen, that again does not exist. And so it's sort of like about the fighting between these two Smash Mouth actors who want their moment to shine. And played together, it works. I think the documentary could have been a lot shorter. I wish it was like maybe a 40 or 50 minute thing as opposed to almost an hour and a half. Because I think it's trying to go for Christopher Guest, and I don't think it quite nails that with enough.
Oh, okay.
So like I kind of wish it was just more of an end cap to this movie as opposed to a whole other movie. But it was entertaining. I like what it was doing.
Cool.
I think this would be fun to see in a movie theater, or fun to see with like a bunch of genre fans. But that was the long-winded explanation about Endzone 2.
That's the thing. Like I love the idea, but it's like so hard to talk about them without it being like a million years long. Like this is so silly, but like in writing about them online, like when I'm like writing online, Jesus Christ, like when I'm writing articles like on Dread Central, it's just like, how the fuck do I like succinctly explain this in a headline? It's just like, and again, like I don't care if filmmaking, like, it doesn't matter in the long run. It's just funny about like, the lore is cool, but trying to distill that information is much more challenging.
It really is.
It is for just one movie. And it is kind of like a lot to ask. And if you kind of think about it, like, all right, so I'm going to have to ask you to watch these two movies back to back for it to make any sense. And it's
and that's the thing. Like, you could not watch the one. I mean, I guess you could watch the Once and Future Smash without watching that first movie, but you would not pick up on a lot of the things that it's doing.
Yeah.
And so it has to be played together. And I do wish maybe they had found a way to like make it one movie, but it was entertaining. I enjoyed it. So what's this sci-fi found footage movie?
So this is the sci-fi found footage film from Panic Fest called Blue Hour.
Okay, I didn't realize it was found footage.
Blue Hour, the disappearance of Nick Brandreth is like the full title, but it is essentially like a pseudo-documentary in the style of, horror in the high desert kind of thing. Okay. Where it's kind of taking those techniques we see in like true crime shows, and it's a true crime documentary filmmaker is trying to find her dad. Her dad disappeared when she was a kid in the woods. No one knows where he went, but they ruled it a suicide because there was a shell casing on the ground, and they just assumed that he died with no body. And so she is convinced that there's like more to the story. And so when she starts investigating, she talks to a friend of his, a guy who would develop photos for her dad. And he shows her these photos her dad took in the nearby woods of guys in black robes in the woods and seemingly random doorways just in the forest that these guys are protecting or standing guard around whatever. So of course from there she decides I'm going to go in the woods and find these doors.
As
and
one
see
does.
What the as you do. And it is essentially this really fascinating true crime-esque story that is not always successful. I think it's kind of a rocky execution. I think the acting when they're doing like the interviews with family is like so like overacted. Like it doesn't feel like an interview. It feels like someone is acting out an interview. So it's just like very awkward and takes you out of it. But when they're doing like the, you know, handheld camera in the woods stuff, it feels more natural. So it's weird. The performances are pretty uneven. But it's the director, Dan Bowers, he did the visual effects for Smile.
Oh.
Or was one of the visual effects artists for Smile. And so the visual effects in this are decent. I mean, it's a low budget indie movie. Like even if you are a visual effects artist, like you're not gonna, you know, always be able to give the best stuff. But there's some interesting stuff going on here with like dimensional stuff and time travel. And like even if it's not the most like technically, you know, it's like not the most successful movie, but it takes like a lot of risks that you don't see in found footage with like sci-fi especially. And so it's cool to see a lo-fi take on sci-fi via found footage without worrying about like aliens or a creature and like playing with that, like that kind of thing. So that's Blue Hour. I saw it at Panic Fest. I don't know the future of it, but it was pretty interesting.
Cool.
Again, like I said, it's not perfect, but it's really smart. What it wants to do is really smart, and I think if that director had more some more resources, he could make something super cool. So I think it just needs. I think that it's the kind of movie that needs a shout out, and will find its audience. I think, especially just like if they appreciate what it's trying to do versus like how well it fully achieves it.
I'll have to add that one to my list. I haven't gotten to that one yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you would feel about it, but I think I know what this is. But an intense heist film.
Yeah, so this is one we both have seen. It is How to Blow Up a Pipeline, directed by Daniel Goldhaber. He, of course, is also the director of Cam, which was written by Issa Mazet, former guest of the show. And she is an executive producer on it. And it is basically, distilled to its basic premise, which the movie does a lot of distilling things down to like the most essential parts of being a thriller, is about a crew of disparate environmental activists who decide they're going to blow up a pipeline in Texas because, well, for different reasons for them. And so what it does is it shows like this really cool intro of introducing all these people in media res almost. And then it kind of cuts to them all getting together and they've had this plan. And we start to like have little bits of flashbacks for each character to sort of explain how each person got to be here. And it takes a lot of, I would say it's actually kind of a subversive film it's definitely a subversive film on what it's tackling, but the way it uses the heist film, it does it in a very subversive way that had me going, okay, so when is X going to happen? And then X does happen, but then there's another wrinkle on top of X happening. So there's like a lot of things that it plays with, so that if you've seen a lot of crime thrillers, a lot of these type of heist type films where you kind of know what to expect, it plays with that a bit. And I think it's so lean, it's so efficient, it's so intense as we get to like the final act of it, that I think it is an immense movie to watch. I will say that I was a little let down with the way it ended. It ends very abruptly for me, and it raises a lot of questions throughout, and then it doesn't ever really tackle those questions. So I think that like from that kind of perspective, it's a little hit or miss. But in terms of creating this very incendiary narrative and keeping your attention the entire time, it is completely successful. That's how I felt. What did you think about it, Mary Beth?
I mean, I loved it. I had heard amazing things about it, and I you know, I was excited to see something that is like so boldly taking a stance about the environment but not just the environment, but about like political movements and anarchy and what it means to like really try to enforce change and the radical kind of acts of violence that are necessary to kind of stop, like, you know, stop the destruction of the planet and to stop these really horrendous systems. And I think what's really interesting is that this is kind of like the most mainstream way you could do it. And I know that, like, which is like, I know that, again, that sounds silly, but like so it's based on a book that's actually like, I'm pretty sure it is like it's a nonfiction book. Hold on. Yeah, so it's a nonfiction book where it's basically the author Andreas Malm talks about, it's basically they're criticizing the way that people are trying to do climate activism and like why sabotage is necessary. This movie basically takes like the conceit of the book, which is nonfiction, and makes it into the heist movie. And I think that with it being a heist movie, it makes it kind of digestible. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a good thing. I'm not criticizing that. And I think that and I think like my biggest criticism is also the end and the way it ties up. Mm-hmm. But I think regardless, like, it is incredible that this kind of movie that is very much encouraging environmental terrorism, fuck yeah, is like getting so much attention, because it's like, it feels like a horror movie. It feels like the score, you can tell that Goldhaber obviously comes from horror because of the way the score and the tension builds up, and like obviously these kinds of heist movies are tense, but I just think that the way that all of the elements come together feel very horror-ish, and like the action sequences. And so I wasn't surprised, but I was still incredibly impressed with it. And it's like, if anyone sees one movie this year, I think that's probably going to be the movie to see, in my opinion. That or Hosera. But if you don't like horror movies, this is a good one.
Yeah. What a great cast too, by the way. Lucas, a lot of people we've seen in genre. Lucas Gage is in it. Sasha Lane, who was in Daniel Isn't Real, she's in it. Jake Weary, who was in It Follows as well as Zombievers, is in it. A lot of character actors from the horror sphere in the film, and I think that's what's next. Oh, a shockingly interesting movie about running around a pond.
So this is another Panic Fest movie. This is Brightwood, which is another sci-fi like time travel movie. So I did not mean to talk about two very similar movies, but that's kind of just how the cookie crumbled today. I was intrigued by the premise, which is literally a couple goes jogging around a pond and then they get stuck jogging around that pond and they can't escape. And I was like, all right, like this could go one of two ways. This could just be really boring, or it could be really
Tony says, a
interesting.
literal nightmare. It could
be. A literal nightmare. And this couple is a literal nightmare. They hate each other so much. They're fighting the whole time. And at the beginning of the movie, it's kind of like, oh my god, I'm so fucking sick of these people. Like, they need to shut up and like just walk into the pond. Like, just walk into the pond, please. I beg of you. But as the movie progresses, it gets more and more interesting in how it tackles like time loops and paradoxes. Okay. I don't want to spoil it,
right, but
it was gross.
Oh.
And I wish it had done more of that, because the last like 20 minutes are really, really good, and that's like frustrating for a lot of reasons when you're like, come on, guys. Because it's 80 minutes long, so it's not a long movie. It could have been shorter, probably. Or they could have... At first, I was like, this could be shorter, but then I thought, well, you could just be grosser. Like, think Coco... Did you see Coco di Coco Da? Mm-hmm. So it has, like, those vibes, but not as bleak. And it is bleak, but, like, not the whole time. And I wish that it had been even more bleak. And yes, that might just be me. But I think, like, there's some really dark shit going on in Brightwood that I just think they could have done even more of. But I was actually really surprised when it ended. I was like, all right, like, that was actually quite surprising. Like, yes, this is probably a movie that was made for very little money, like, in a local park. But it was good. Like, I was quite surprised. So, That is Brightwood. It will probably get picked up by like a smaller company, and I bet it'll get like a little bit of a following. But I think it's definitely not what I expected, and I love that about film festivals, when a movie can surprise me.
I mean, that's one thing I really do like about Panic Fest, is that you're going to see movies here. You're going to see festival movies that have probably come on different festivals or will be making a festival run, and then you're going to see these little weird things that you might not ever see again, or like it's something that you won't see anywhere else. And I think is it Brightwood? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
I think that one has hit a couple different festivals up to this point, because
it's gonna be at Salem.
Okay, because that name just keeps like ringing a bell with me, or the premise keeps ringing a bell with me.
Yeah.
But like this is the kind of stuff that I do like about Panic Fest, is these little weird movies about people getting stuck around a pond or something. Like they always have those types of films, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I wanted to bring it up to give it a little bit of love, because I hadn't really heard anyone talking about it. So we'll see what its future looks like.
And then let's finally end on something we both have seen as well. What's this Cronenberg adaptation? Not Cronenbergian. It is literally an adaptation of Cronenberg.
Yes, this is the Dead Ringers adaptation on Prime Video, which is out now as of the publication of this episode.
Can I just say how exciting it is that we've had From and now Dead Ringers? Like, horror TV and Yellow Jackets is going on at the same time. Horror TV is killing it right now.
It sure fucking is, which is great.
And Servant just ended. Gotta throw that in there.
Hell's Paradise, new anime. Very good. Very creepy. Haven't talked about that on the show yet. Next week.
All right. Anyway, Dead Ringers.
There's too much content. Too much content. But so, Dead Ringers is a show written by Alice Birch, which is based on the David Cronenberg film of the same name from 1988, which is about the Mantle twins, twin gynecologists who are, in the movie, obsessed with female anatomy and the idea of mutant. Have you seen this one yet, Terry?
Nope.
I can't fucking remember where you are at.
It's really kind of funny to me that I have now seen this adaptation. Most of it, I haven't finished it. Most of this adaptation of a movie that I've never seen, because we haven't gotten to it yet.
But so the twins in the movie are played by Jeremy Irons, and in this series, which is 6 episodes, the Mantle twins are played by Rachel Weisz, the queen of my heart and soul. And here
listen to the Mummy episode.
I got to interview her, and I was like, be professional.
I know, I saw. I'm like, holy
Don't
cow.
call her mommy. Be an adult. And I was. But in the show, we follow the Mantle twins as they are trying, but instead of like being obsessed with mutant female genitalia, they are more interested in revolutionizing how women receive healthcare and give birth. Because, as a lot of us know, birth is traumatizing and women are treated like shit when they give birth a lot of the time. And so they are trying to...
I'll be honest, by the way, watching the birthing sequences in this, like, why do people do this? It was my immediate response, because I was like, this is trauma.
Yeah, so like there's a lot of birth. And when I say birth, I mean like close-ups of heads coming out of vaginas and like C-sections happening. So like it's really gross, which I love, because it's like not really it's not body horror, but it like leans into the horrors of having the female body, because this is a very femme-coded, femme energy series. The movie is very much about like the foreignness of the vagina and the fear of the vagina, and it's like, oh my god, I'm a man and I don't understand the vagina and giving pleasure to women. But here, all of the characters are women, and like the male characters are like sidekick himbo, kind of like don't really have much of a role, except for one guy, but he's like kind of an idiot. And the rest of these characters are complicated, messy, queer women. There's a lot of queer women in this. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of Rachel Weisz eating pussy. There's a lot, and it's terrible.
See, we should have went from pussy to this.
I know, but at the same time, it also captures like the toxic codependent relationship that Beverly and Elliot, the Mantle twins, have with one another. And it's just like it's weird because they just are taking like this movie, making it into a series. And I've seen a lot of people say it's not successful. I love this fucking shit. I think it's so good. I think it matches the tone and the weird disjointedness of the original film really well. Because a lot of what I love about Dead Ringers is it is kind of like, what exactly is real? What is happening? And the series captures that. And it's really weird. And things don't make a lot of sense. But I kind of obsessed with that. And Karen Kusama directs episode 5, which is my favorite episode, which I'm very happy about. And I just think it's incredible that this exists and that we have so many queer gay women being messy, angry little bitches who are trying to like become God, and it's really hot. I don't know if I like the show or if I just want to fuck the show, but like I don't know, man. There's something about this show that like gets me on a deep primordial level, and I don't know what that says about me because I hate birth, but just like the way that it depicts womanhood and femininity and like different kinds of femininity, and like it has its problems, but I still love it. Like, it is very cis. It's very bioessentialist in terms of, like, women and vaginas. And, like, yeah, you can argue until you're blue in the face about, like, women give birth, but trans people also give birth. So, and, like, you know, I just feel like there's so many things in the show that they touch on that I feel like you probably could have added that in just to be like, see, we are not sitting on this, like, kind of very white cis woman perspective, but it is very squarely sitting in a cis white woman perspective, and like a privileged cis white woman perspective. Incredibly so. So like I very much acknowledge that this movie is very white and very much about living in opulence, because they kind of touch on it a little bit in episode 5 about like the sacrifices that Black women have made, and I was like, okay. And then it goes away. And I was like, all right, well, we kind of got there. And then we went back to, like, cis white women with a lot of money and a lot of opportunities. And, like, yes, Genevieve, who is a love interest of Elliot, is a Black woman. But there's a lot of really weird politics around that treatment as well. And so it's just, it's interesting. I know that not every show can hit on everything, but I think with this statement it is trying to make, it feels very weird to have it be so centered in that perspective, if that makes sense.
No, it does. Absolutely. I was actually kind of surprised when we're going through a bunch of birthing montages in the beginning that they were very cis focused. Like, I was like, why aren't we at least showing the differences of pregnancy? Because it's not just and like vagina.
Yeah, it is like it doesn't think about that. It doesn't. It's very focused on like trying to be very like wealth, like exploiting the wealthy to do good, but it doesn't go far enough with that message. Because there's definitely a lot of whispers of that, but it doesn't fully commit to that stuff. I think that there's so much going on in this show, and they really want to like foreground the struggles with Beverly and Elliot, but all of the things going on in the background are almost there, but they kind of get lost in like the weird subconscious stuff going on. Mm-hmm. And I think, I just think it could have been handled much more delicately, but...
Yeah, I'm not finished with it yet. I think I'm on episode 4, or I just finished episode 4. I can't remember which, because I've been watching that as well as watching 2 seasons of From, and as well as Panic Fest, and I don't have time, so I haven't finished it yet. But I'm enjoying what I saw. I'm telling you, Rachel Weisz is phenomenal as both roles in this. Like, the way she's able to basically create 2 characters in this movie is stunning. Give her 2 Emmys. Thank you.
I know. She's incredible. Like, it really is incredible to watch her. Like, the way she has created these 2 very distinct characters and the way she's able to act with herself. Mm-hmm. It's kind of scary and very odd. in a good way.
Yeah, and they do a good job of like inserting the two of them. So like they do such a great job of having both characters.
It freaks me out.
Yeah,
it freaks me out the way they do it. It's really, really bizarre.
You would think that she is actually a twin.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, this is like when I thought Lindsay Lohan actually had a twin, and I didn't understand that you could do movie tricks, and I saw The Parent Trap when I was a child.
This is the Parent Trap of Cronenberg movies, Cronenberg adaptations.
Oh my god. Cronenberg. Oh my god. Dead Ringers is Parent Trap for grown-ups. That's the title of this episode. Dead Ringers is Parent Trap for adults. On that incredible note, that about does it for this week's Little Cuts. Terry, who are we chatting with on Monday?
So on Monday, we are chatting with Dutch Marich, the writer-director of the Horror in the High Desert series. The second one just came out on Prime. It's also at Prime or to rent. I think it might be out just to rent.
I think you can rent it on Prime, but it's like 99 cents or something. It's like super cheap. It's worth it. I promise you. Both of them are very worth it.
They are both really good. They're both really good. And he brought with him Copycat, Sigourney Weaver, Holly Hunter, Dermot Mulroney.
Dermot Mulroney.
Mulroney. Babyface Dermot. Babyface all of them, honestly, but Babyface Dermot. It's a good movie.
So cute.
Good conversation. Dutch is a doll. And then what are we doing for Little Cuts next week, Mary Beth?
Little Cuts next week, we are going to finish covering festival films from Fantastic Fest and also Fantaspoa, which is a Brazilian film festival that I'm covering virtually, kind of. So, and then we'll probably have an announcement about our next series next week. We just have a lot of festivals and things to watch, and I just don't have time. I can't put anything else on my plate, but there'll be plenty to talk about. But listeners, you've heard from us. We want to hear from you. Have you seen any of these films that we've talked about and have thoughts? Do you have suggestions for what our next series could be? You can send us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us on Twitter. I am at MB McAndrews.
And I'm at Gaily Dreadful.
And of course, don't forget to follow the podcast on Twitter at Scarred Podcast.
And please don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe. And if you want to help support us, we do have a Patreon where you can be watching this madness that just happened tonight unfold live, or also in a video form. Or also you could watch some Fresh Wounds. We dropped a Fresh Wounds episode on our main feed to kind of show you what we're about. And hopefully you'll help support us.
Please, and thank you. Thank you to Eric Power for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Please stay safe. Please stay safe out there. But most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time.
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children? Won't somebody please think of the children? Somebody please think of the children!
When you wanna have fun and have scratchers to scratch, there's a playful way you can do just that. Scratch with the key or acrylic nail. Scratch with the quill from a porcupine tail. Use a belt buckle from your friend Lamar. Or scratch with your pick while you play guitar. You can scratch in a bunch of different playful ways. Scratchers from the California Lottery. A little play can make your day. Please play responsibly. Must be 18 years or older to purchase, play, or claim.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room? It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system.
If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served.
Hi, I'm Detective Dave.
I'm Detective Dan. Together, we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood.
So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished.
From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th. We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.